All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to be dissecting a very particular and honestly pretty controversial set of ideas. It's what some call a playbook for seduction. But look, this isn't about charm or romance or any of the things we usually think of. We're about to examine a psychological framework that treats attraction not as some kind of magic, but as a calculated, strategic game. And just to be crystal clear, our goal here is not to teach these methods. It's to understand the theories behind them, and to do that with a really critical, really cautionary eye.
So, where does all this come from? What's the supposed problem that this playbook is designed to solve? Well, it all kicks off at this incredibly bold, almost arrogant claim. Most men today are hopeless when it comes to seduction. The core idea here is that there's this huge fundamental misunderstanding in modern dating. This perspective argues that countless men are failing, not because they have bad intentions, but because they have zero psychological insight.
And that right there is the crucial point. This entire philosophy argues that seduction has very little to do with your looks or how much money you have. It's a mental game. It's about the subtle application of psychological principles that are designed from the ground up to create attraction. We're going to explore what those principles are and the very, very fine line they walk between influence and what is, frankly, outright manipulation. To really get a handle on this, we first have to understand the premise of this so-called crisis. The sources we're looking at, they paint this picture of modern men being completely and utterly lost, using tactics that aren't just ineffective, but that actively kill any chance of attraction. So let's break down what they see as the core mistakes.
Okay, this is where the playbook just flips conventional dating advice completely on its head. It basically argues that the whole nice guy approach, being honest, available, super attentive, actually destroys all mystery. By confessing how you feel way too soon or by being constantly available, you get rid of any tension, any question mark. And the result, according to this worldview, you become predictable. And in this game, predictability is the absolute enemy of desire. You become, in their words, boring.
So, why on earth does predictability supposedly fail so badly? Well, it's because the entire playbook is built on a set of really broad, and let's be honest, pretty stereotypical assumptions about men and women. The theory goes something like this. Men are creatures of logic, they're direct, while women, on the other hand, operate in this realm of pure emotion and contradiction. It's this perceived difference that the seducer is supposed to exploit. By navigating that emotional world, they can bypass logic entirely.
So how does all this theory get turned into an actual strategy? We're not just talking about a collection of tips here. This is a systematic playbook. It's all about applying specific psychological tactics that, believe it or not, have some pretty deep historical roots. The idea is that history's greatest seducers weren't just charismatic. They were master psychologists, whether they even knew it or not.
And this is a huge shift. We're moving away from the idea of just having some kind of innate charm and into the world of deliberate, calculated strategy. Every single action, every word, is designed to have a specific psychological effect. It's about manufacturing emotions, things like intrigue, anxiety, and eventually desire, in a very controlled sequence, all to guide a person toward attraction.
And make no mistake, these concepts are anything but new. The sources constantly point to historical figures as case studies. You've got Cleopatra, who used this incredible spectacle in theater to create an aura of divine power. Then there's Casanova, who specialized in finding a woman's vulnerability just so he could become her savior. And of course, Lord Byron, who basically invented the dangerous bad boy reputation, creating this puzzle that women felt absolutely compelled to solve. These are the historical archetypes of the playbook.
Okay, now we're getting to the absolute core of this explainer. We're going to break down 4 specific tactics that are pulled directly from these theories. And I really want to emphasize the word dangerous here. Even the sources themselves warn that these methods walk a razor's edge between what you might call enchantment and what is clearly manipulation. And they can cause very real emotional harm if they're misused.
The first tactic is, well, it's maybe the most insidious of them all. It's based on a truly chilling premise. A person who is perfectly happy and satisfied with their life cannot be seduced. Therefore, the first step isn't to show how great you are. No, is to subtly make the other person feel like something is missing in their life, to create a void, a sense of unease that only you can fill.
And the process is incredibly methodical. It starts with just gently probing for insecurities or maybe forgotten ambitions. Once you find a point of dissatisfaction, you gently amplify it, not by criticizing, but by constantly highlighting the gap between their everyday reality and the dreams they once had. And once that anxiety is stirred up, you present yourself as the solution, the grand escape they didn't even know they were looking for.
And this is a chillingly perfect real-world example. Casanova didn't just stumble upon women to seduce. He actively looked for women who were in some kind of distress. Financially, socially, emotionally, it didn't matter. He would then solve their problem, showering them with attention and gifts, which in turn created this intense feeling of dependency and gratitude. He literally manufactured the need, and then he swooped in to become the hero. It's a powerful and deeply manipulative formula.
All right, the second tactic leverages a powerful psychological bias that we all have. It's called social proof. And the core idea is actually super simple. We want what other people want. Value isn't always inherent. A lot of the time, it's perceived. So by making yourself seem desired by others, you automatically increase your own perceived value in the eyes of your target. This is often called creating triangles of attention. So you've got the target, and then you have the real or maybe just implied interest of other people. It works by dropping these subtle hints or being seen with admirers, all to create a sense of competition and rarity. The subtext is pretty clear. Other people want me. You should probably figure out why before it's too late. Now we arrive at what is, without a doubt, the most ethically questionable tactic in the entire playbook. This strategy is all about systematically and subtly removing your target from their normal environment, from their friends, from their routines, all in an effort to make you the absolute center of their world.
This is a slow, methodical burn. We're not talking about physical kidnapping here. We're talking about emotional and social isolation. And you do it by creating a bubble. You take them to new places that only the two of you know. You create inside jokes and these intense shared experiences that their friends just can't relate to. By offering this constant, undivided attention, you start to make their regular social life seem kind of dull by comparison. And over time, their reliance slowly shifts away from their support network and onto you.
A quote from Robert Greene's The Art of Seduction just lays this strategy completely bare. It says, "Take them to places they do not know. They will wake up one day, distanced from everything that normally comforts them." This isn't an accident. It's a deliberate attempt to remove a person's anchors so that in their disorientation, the only thing they have to cling to is you. It's a deeply, deeply controlling tactic disguised as a series of fun adventures.
And the final tactic is all about creating and maintaining a sense of mystery. It basically weaponizes unpredictability. The theory goes that a person who's consistent and easy to read might be nice, but they're also forgettable. To truly occupy someone's mind, to live rent-free in their head, you need to become an unsolved puzzle that they feel absolutely compelled to think about, constantly. This is the classic hot and cold behavior we've all heard about. One day you're warm, you're attentive, you're showering them with praise. The very next day, you're distant, aloof, maybe a little hard to reach. This push-pull dynamic creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. The target's mind just goes into overdrive trying to figure you out. They start asking, what did I do wrong? Do they actually like me? By constantly keeping them guessing, you ensure that you are always on their mind.
So we've just walked through 4 incredibly powerful psychological tactics. And as we start to wrap this up, it is absolutely essential that we return to the warning that runs through the source material itself. There is an incredibly fine, and honestly often blurred, line between what some might call seduction and what is undeniably emotional manipulation.
So where is that line? What's the real difference? Is the goal a genuine connection that uplifts both people, or is it about creating dependence to achieve a conquest? Is it about mutual enjoyment, or is it about control? The tactics we've just discussed can cross that line with terrifying ease. Stirring anxiety becomes emotional abuse. Isolation becomes coercive control. It's a slippery slope.
And this quote right here is perhaps the most telling of all. I mean, just read that carefully. Guiding her desires until she believes that chasing you is her choice. This single sentence strips away any illusion of mutual discovery. It reveals a profoundly unsettling core. The goal is to orchestrate a scenario where the other person's free will is nothing but an illusion, engineered entirely by you. It frames seduction not as a dance between two people, but as a form of psychological puppetry.
And you know, it's also crucial to remember that this game, even when you win, often comes at an incredibly high price. Those historical figures that are held up as examples, they didn't always have happy endings. Cleopatra's political seductions led directly to war and her own death. Casanova's lifestyle of conquest and deceit eventually landed him in prison. A life that's built on a foundation of manipulation is often incredibly unstable, and it frequently ends in ruin.
So in the end, we're left with this question. Is this playbook a sophisticated guide to human psychology and desire?
A way to understand the unseen forces of attraction? Or is it a blueprint for emotional predation, a set of tools for exploiting the vulnerabilities of others for your own personal gain? By understanding these tactics, the hope is that we can not only recognize them when they're being used on us or others, but that we can also make a conscious choice about the kind of connections we actually want to build. Ones based on honesty and mutual respect, not on some secret, manipulative playbook.